In this video, let us understand how super apps gets built and also expands throughout different category of services which they find out on the basis of their user persona or how their users behave or wants their services. They do not want to link unrelated services or which is not closer to their users persona. So let us look at some of the super app expansion strategies. So the first one is that, first of all, you will notice in any super app, the examples that we have taken and we will share further. Number one, they will have one anchor service, and the characteristic of that anchor service will be always high frequency. Because if the frequency is high, that's when these super apps are able to become the day-to-day life go-to application for their users, or they also build something so that the users can come back again and again. So the first one is messaging. You look at WeChat, you look at WhatsApp, then you look at Telegram. These are applications which are being built on messaging. And now if you look at the WeChat expansion and WhatsApp expansion, now they are getting into payments as well. In future, who knows, you can also book a ride on WhatsApp or on WeChat. Definitely you can do it. And you can also book doctor's appointment. Then you look at payments. They also get into payments. Then food delivery. So what happens is that you will find that most of these are called anchor services, and let us take one example of each anchor service. Number one, we have all talked about WeChat, about Telegram, about WhatsApp. The rides, the best use case is Grab, the best use case is Uber, then Ola in India, and then all other places. So the next after the anchor service is financial layer. How do you lay a financial layer on top of your anchor service? It could be into payments, it could be into wallet services, which could be into lending, it could be into insurance, it could be into wealth management, it could be many services. So if you look at any super app expansion strategy, they start with a core anchor service and then they lay the financial layer on top of that. And then what they do is at a third level, then go to the lifestyle services, which includes food, shopping, entertainment, utility, and government services as well. Because government services gives them a credibility that, okay, this app seems to be associated with government and hence they are giving these services. So hence government services builds credibility to super application. Utility again is not a very high frequency, I would say, service, but still it's very much important because you have to pay that weekly or monthly or depending on what is the type of utility you are using. But in most of the cases, even let's say food here is a lifestyle service, shopping can be considered as a lifestyle services because it does not have a very high frequency. But for super apps, these are high margin businesses. So what happens is that on the anchor service, super apps don't make a lot of money, and at times they also lose money, but they keep it because they want the customers to keep coming back to them. On financial layer, they try to understand the financial services and the financial persona of their users. On the lifestyle, they start then earning commissions or the average revenue per user goes, because in the food, shopping, entertainment, utility, and again government services, they make marginal money, but it is important for their credibility. Now if you go to the other aspect of it, once they advance to the next level, they also start creating a mini app ecosystem, which means that within their application they start creating a microservices or mini app ecosystem. So for each service you will find they will have a mini app. In the first stage, what happens is that they start connecting through APIs and they start creating a super app where everything is coming into one app. Now, once it grows, it becomes very complex. And second, if there are multiple regulators, what each regulator wants to do is that they say that, okay, you need to create a separate ecosystem for the services that I regulate. In that case, it also becomes important for super apps to create a mini app ecosystem, which means that there is an app and there within that super app there are small applications within that super app as well. So it is a different from just showing through the API based ecosystem, but within that super app it's like you can consider then super app as a mall and mini app as small shops within that super app. So now it helps to do cross-selling, bundling of different services, a third-party integration. For example, in a super app you can also do a flight booking or a doctor on call. Then these are called third-party integrations. And then it gradually starts becoming the platform and marketplace where gradually many applications start coexisting. And in fact, once you grow so big that even you create ecosystem in which one application start competing with others. So as a super app expansion strategy, your core system or core idea should be that your super app should become a digital infrastructure layer of that country, which means that if the country is not advanced to create a digital public infrastructure, what also happens that it becomes a by default digital infrastructure layer. For example, in India, UPI is built on digital public infrastructure, which has a public-private partnership model. But if you look at a lot of other ecosystems like M-Pesa, which is a private company, but it almost works like a digital infrastructure on which many banks start developing their product. And this then M-Pesa become a basic layer. So at times what they also do is that they become a white label service, which means that they will not show that this system or this application is powered by M-Pesa. But what will happen is someone will build on top of that M-Pesa system. So now what happens is that M-Pesa becomes like a payment layer or a gateway layer on which the applications start getting developed or others start integrating. So the idea to become a super app is to create a digital infrastructure layer so that if anyone wants to build their own super app or an app in which they want to give multiple services, they can come to you and they can launch their super app by using the bouquet of services that you have integrated or aggregated under your super app. So you become the super app of the super apps. So your expansion strategy should be to become the super app of the super app. So anybody who wants to create a super app should come to you and say, okay, I don't have that much patience, I do not have that much capital, but I want to build a super app. Can I use your application at the back end and my application at the front end on a white label business? So now what happens is that you are creating a layer which everybody is trying to leverage upon. Now someone can come and say, okay, you have, let's say 50 services. I just want 10 services on my app. So what you do is that you also customize those APIs, give that to that application, and then that application become a super app only for 10 of your services. That's the strategy that you try to build if you're creating a very big market. But if you're starting off, then there is a different strategy that we will talk about in the chapters to come. So hence your super app should be positioned as the default digital operating systems in daily life of your users and gradually to other parts of the ecosystem. So if you have created a super app and if a government system wants that, okay, apart from paying utility or the municipality bills, I also want my users or my citizens to also pay for flights, also pay for their other services. So if that is the way, what you do is that you create that super app layer and you go to government and say, okay, why are you building this from the scratch? You can leverage our services and then we can do it white label. So in that case, what you're doing is that you're trying to capture the entire market by also eliminating the potential competitors for you. So your super app expansion strategy in a longer run should be like that. If the government ecosystem or the public infrastructure has not evolved to that level, that's when then you become the by default digital infrastructure. But that's a very long-term game. If you're just starting up, then you should identify one anchor service. Number two, layer that financial layer on top of that. Third, start finding lifestyle services or which is more like a luxurious product which can give you margins, and then start creating mini app ecosystem as well. So that someone says, okay, I do not like, let's say, M-Pesa, or I do not want, say, WeChat. So what they do is that within WeChat, then what they can do is that they can create a separate application. So many users would not know that this application is by WeChat or by M-Pesa, and then they will end up using it. So what you do is that within that ecosystem, you also create your own ecosystem, plus you also create your own competitors or your own suppliers or your own adjacent applications. So by that, you are trying to capture the entire market, you being the provider and you also being the competitor of your own providers, or you being the competitor of your own services. So this is how the entire super app expansion strategy can plan out, but totally depends on where you are right now, what kind of country you are operating in, what kind of regulations are there, and what is your long-term strategy. And second, very much important is what anchor service you are going to choose. Because in a super app, choosing an anchor service is very much important and it should have a very high frequency. So that's all in this video. See you in the next one. Thank you and take care.